You're standing in line at the grocery store. Your phone buzzes. An email from your boss. 2 words in the subject line. We need to talk. Your chest tightens. Your palms go damp. Your heart picks up speed. And deep inside your skull, a part of your brain just lit up like it spotted a wolf in the trees. There is no wolf. There is no danger. But your body doesn't know that. It just launched the same chain of events that kept your ancestors alive on the open plains. And right now, that chain is doing you more harm than good. But here's the part no one tells you. That reaction doesn't just fade when the email turns out to be nothing. A piece of it stays. It stacks. And over months and years, those tiny jolts start to break things deep inside your cells. Not in some vague, hand-wavy way, in a real, measured way that shows up on blood tests and under a microscope. But to grasp why this matters, we need to go back to the part of your brain that starts the whole thing. The guard dog. Buried deep in each side of your brain sits a small chunk of tissue shaped like an almond. Think of it as the most paranoid guard dog you've ever seen. It doesn't wait for proof. It doesn't think. It reacts. A loud noise, a shadow in the corner, a text with no context. The guard dog barks first and asks questions never. And it does this fast. Not fast the way you think. Fast in a way that breaks your idea of what fast means. Before you can blink your eye, this guard dog has already fired. Brain scans show it lights up in a fraction of that time. We're talking about a part of your brain that can flag a threat before you're even aware you saw something. Now, why would your brain build a system that fast? Because the world your ancestors lived in didn't give second chances. The rustle in the grass was either the wind or a predator. The ones who waited to find out often didn't pass on their genes. The ones whose guard dog barked early lived long enough to have kids. And those kids had the same hair trigger alarm. So here you are millions of years later with a threat system tuned for lions, living in a world of group chats. But the guard dog alone doesn't do the damage. It's what happens next. The moment the alarm fires, it kicks off a chain reaction. Think of it like dominoes falling. The first domino sits at the base of your brain. It sends a signal to a small gland just below it. That gland tips forward and nudges the next piece. And that second domino sends a message through your blood down to 2 small glands that sit on top of your kidneys. That's where the real action starts. Within seconds, those glands dump a rush of a hormone into your blood. Your heart speeds up. Your breathing gets shallow. Blood pulls away from your gut and floods your muscles. You're ready to run or fight. This first wave hits hard and fades fast. The chemical behind it breaks down in your blood in just minutes. But the second wave is different. A slower hormone follows, one that takes its time. It builds. It peaks well after the alarm fires. And unlike the first rush, this one lingers for over an hour. This slower hormone is the one that causes trouble when it shows up too often. In small doses, it's useful. It gives you focus. It pulls sugar from your stores so your muscles have fuel. It dials down things that aren't urgent, like your immune system and your digestion. All of that makes sense when you're running from a real threat for a few minutes. But you're not running from anything. You're sitting in traffic. You're reading a passive-aggressive Slack message. You're lying in bed at 2 in the morning, thinking about a meeting that hasn't happened yet. And every single time, the dominoes fall the same way. Now here's where it gets strange. You might think your body can tell the difference between a real threat and a minor hassle. After all, one could kill you and the other is just annoying. But that guard dog doesn't care about context. It can't read. It doesn't know the difference between a charging bear and a charging credit card bill. Same bark, same dominoes, same flood of hormones. This is where most people stop thinking about it. They assume the body resets. You calm down, the chemicals clear, and everything goes back to normal. Right, not quite. And this is the part that changes how you think about stress for good. Picture a bank account. Every time that hormone floods your system, it's like a withdrawal. A small one, sure, a few bucks here and there. You don't notice at first, but the account never gets a full deposit back. Each time you calm down, you recover most of it. Not all. There's a gap. A tiny deficit that stays. Now multiply that by every email, every traffic jam, every argument, every late-night scroll through bad news. Dozens of small withdrawals a day. Weeks turn into months, months turn into years. And one day, the account hits zero. Then it goes below zero, and that's when the overdraft fees start. Those fees don't show up as dollar signs. They show up as high blood pressure, thick blood sugar, swelling markers that won't come down, heart rhythm that lost its natural swing. Researchers built a way to measure this total wear. They look at a mix of markers, blood pressure, sugar levels, proteins that flag swelling, the natural bounce in your heart rhythm. When enough of these markers push past safe lines, the pattern becomes clear. People in that zone face a sharply higher risk of death within the next decade. This isn't just about feeling tired or burned out. This is your body keeping score. And the score has real stakes. But the damage goes even deeper than blood markers. Inside every cell you have, at the tips of your DNA strands, sit tiny caps. Think of them like the plastic tips on the end of a shoelace. They don't carry genetic code. They're just there to keep the strand from fraying. Every time a cell divides, those caps get a little shorter. That's normal aging. But that slow stress hormone speeds up the fraying. It dials down the enzyme that repairs the caps. It also cranks up the kind of damage that eats away at them from the outside. Under constant stress, those caps shrink faster than they should. Studies on people who carry heavy, long-term stress, like those caring for a sick family member for years, found their caps were notably shorter than people the same age who weren't under that strain. Shorter caps mean the cell acts older than it is. It divides poorly or stops dividing at all. Tissues don't renew the way they should. Your immune system weakens. Your skin, your gut lining, your blood vessels, all of them depend on cells that can still divide. When the caps wear down, that whole process slows. You age from the inside out. And the clock on that process is ticking faster every time the guard dog barks at your inbox. Now, the obvious pushback here is fair. Doesn't your body have ways to fix this? Aren't we built to bounce back? Yes and no. Your body does have a brake system. Think of it as a second squad. If the first squad, the one that floods your system with speed and fuel, wears red, then the second squad wears blue. Their job is to slow the heart, restart digestion, bring the calm back. They're always there, pushing against the red team. The two sides sit on a seesaw. When one goes up, the other goes down. The problem is that modern life keeps the red side up almost all the time. The blue team barely gets a turn. You can measure how well these two sides trade off by looking at the natural shifts in your heartbeat. A healthy heart doesn't beat like a metronome. It speeds up and slows down in tiny shifts, breath by breath. The bigger those shifts, the more your blue team is doing its job. When those shifts shrink, it's a sign that your body has lost its ability to recover between hits. And here's the nuance that most people miss. This system doesn't break the same way in everyone. Someone with strong social bonds, regular movement, and good sleep might handle the same workload as someone who falls apart under it. The guard dog barks the same way, the dominoes fall the same way, but the blue team in one person might be far stronger than in another. Genes play a part. So does income, childhood, and access to green space and rest. A breathing trick that works well for someone with a stable home life might barely dent the stress of someone juggling 2 jobs and no childcare. The fix can't be only personal. It has to be structural too. But let's talk about what actually works for the things you can control. Because the science here is hopeful. Start with the simplest one, breathing. When you breathe out slowly, longer than you breathe in, you press on the brake side of that seesaw. You send a signal through a nerve that runs from your brain down to your gut, telling the blue team to push harder. It doesn't fix the guard dog, but it stops the dominoes from falling all the way to the bottom. Then there's movement, not extreme exercise, regular steady effort, a brisk walk, a swim, a bike ride. When you move your body on purpose, it burns through the hormones that are floating around with nowhere to go. After several weeks of this kind of routine, the slow stress hormone drops in a real way. The seesaw tips back toward the blue side. The natural swing of your heart rhythm starts to come back. Sleep sits at the center of all of it. When you cut your sleep short on a regular basis, your body keeps the red team on standby. The hormone that should drop at night stays high. The caps on your DNA don't get the repair window they need. One bad night doesn't matter much. But months of short sleep compound like those bank withdrawals. And then there's the one most people overlook. Connection, not social media. Real in-person time with people you trust. When someone you care about sits across from you and you feel safe, something shifts inside your chest. Your heart rhythm widens. The blue team pushes forward. Even your blood pressure drops a little. Loneliness, on the other hand, keeps the seesaw stuck on the red side. None of these things are magic. And here's the honest limit. Most of the research tracks short-term markers. A drop in the stress hormone, a rise in heart rhythm shifts, maybe a slowdown in how fast those DNA caps shrink. What we don't have yet is proof that these changes prevent heart attacks or add years to your life in the long run. The signs point that way, but the full picture isn't drawn yet. That matters. It means we should be honest about what we know and what we're still guessing. Still, the direction is clear, and the logic holds. If the damage comes from a system stuck in alarm mode, then anything that helps the alarm reset is moving you in the right direction. You can't rewire the guard dog. It will bark at emails until the day you die. But you can train the blue team to respond faster. You can make deposits back into the account. You can give those caps a fighting chance. This story has a second chapter, and it might be the most important one. If stress leaves marks on your cells, and those marks can pass to the next generation through chemical tags on your DNA, then the stakes go beyond just your health. Lowering your own stress may change the starting line for your children. That research is still young, but the idea is worth sitting with. If this made you rethink how your body keeps score, you'll want to hear what happens when this same system runs in reverse, when the blue team takes over fully. That story is coming. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Your phone will buzz again tonight. The guard dog will bark. The dominoes will lean. But now you know what's falling, and that changes everything.